Alright, what's up, guys? Today, I want to talk about how and why you should be reading books, right? And let's just get right into it, right? First, most obvious reason expands your knowledge, right? The things you find in a book, you're probably not going to find anywhere else. Most likely, you're not going to find anywhere else, right? There's certain hidden knowledge in books that you're just gonna read and you're gonna just have like a realization. And a lot of these self-improvement YouTubers, they kind of tell you in their own ways shit that works for them. This book, it tells you the information and you take it in your mind and you process it in a different way, right? So I really recommend reading books for the basic reason why it expands your knowledge. And if you want to get girls, reading books is the best way, because you know why? Knowledge is like something that girls look for, right? So it expands your knowledge. That's one of like the basic things, right? It's also kind of like a form of meditation. When you're reading the book, you're reading the words, you're internalizing it if you're like fully aware, right? And I know some of you can't even read books. For a fact, some of you can't even read books. When you're trying to read books, you're like, your mind wanders off, or you read the same sentence 2 or 3 times until you realize that it's still like you're not going to the next sentence. You have to use your finger like, the fox jumped out. Like, that's just lame, man. Come on. How do you have no focus to just read a book? Just look, open a book. That's it. You read through it. The arrogant and proud man, although he may initially disguise it, this man's touchy pride makes him really dangerous. See, I could just read it like straight off, like no thoughts in my head, right? So it kind of forces you to focus, right? If you know what I mean. Kind of forces you to focus on what's being said and internalizing the information, right? So what you really need to do is just sit down and treat it like a meditation session. Just focus on reading it properly and to its fullest, right? And like I'm telling you, like, it's also for life setup, right? And how is it for life setup, you might be asking me. When you read books, you have more to talk about. You have more knowledge as well, right? And when you have more knowledge, what's that gonna do? It's an easy life setup right there, right? You're gonna be able to talk with smarter people. You're gonna be able to do more things. You're gonna be able to learn and internalize more. And you're gonna have, like, if a girl asks you a question, you'll know it. Oh shit, I read it in this book over there. So you know the information. So those are the reasons why you should read books, right? I don't know why I have to convince you to do that, but to each his own. And I have a couple recommendations here for a couple books I feel like you guys should read, right? I'll go from the bottom up because this is how I'm reading it. The Way of the Superman. I just finished this book the other day. Amazing read. This teaches you about like feminine and masculine polarities, and like, it's literally here. That's what it is. A spiritual guide to mastering the challenges of women, work, and sexual desire. This is a really good book, especially for young men who don't like. This is like a Bible for young men, right? So I don't recommend like taking your spiritual advice from this, right? Obviously, I have common sense. There's certain things that make sense here. Certain things that might not fit into your religion, but it gives you a good amount of information, right? Look, be willing to change everything in your life. Tolerating her leads to resenting her, right? Choose a woman who's your complementary opposite. Everything a self-improvement YouTuber talks about is in this. It's all in this. Living on your edge, all of that. So I really, I cannot stress this enough. I really recommend you read this book, right? I even took notes on this. Like, every single chapter I have notes for. Every single chapter. Right? And also, this is another book I really recommend. I don't know, the texture on this book is kind of weird, right? But it's a really good book. 50 Cent basically goes over everything you need in life, bro. This is like the hustler's mindset. Hustle harder, hustle smarter. This is the hustler's mindset. This is actually like this is a really good book. This is probably one of my favorite books, right? He talks about how he made it, things you learned along the way, things you learned when he's up there, how to deal with people around you, how to deal with business, how to value yourself, how to deal with women, everything's in this book. This is a hustler's book right here, right? And then 48 Laws of Power. I read this book so much that you can see like there's text in the front there, right? It says power right there. But I read it so much, it's supposed to be in orange, that it's like just faded, or gold, sorry. It's just faded. That's how much I read it, right? And this book literally teaches you, like, some of the ways are manipulative, right? But you use them in a more tame way. That's how I do it. Some people use it just to defend themselves, like, do not commit to anyone, right? It is the fool who always rushes to take sides. I should read this book again, actually. Use selective honesty, right? I always say less than necessary. This is a really important book. Really important. If you don't want to read like the whole book, that's like 1,000 pages, just read the mini version, right? Then Bhagavad Gita. I read this book. It's a religious book. You can read this without being Hindu, right? But it's a really good book to read. This is like a summary version. I'm gonna get like the full, like the Bhagavad Gita as it is soon. But it really teaches you a lot about life. And the book I'm currently reading is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Right? They don't know if it's actually Sun Tzu or not, but that's a whole different story. But so far, this is actually a really good book. I'll show you the notes I took. It's just one chapter. I took so many notes. And these are the books I'm going to be reading after. The Art of the Rhetoric by Aristotle and Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This book I'm really looking forward to get into, because these both are about like Stoicism and Greek philosophy, which I really like, right? So all of these books is like what I'm reading right now, or what I've read, right? And these are actually amazing books, like super amazing books. And these books, the thing about reading is also that once you like read it fully and go back to it, you're gonna probably discover something new, right? So like every time I read, like I listen to the audiobook for Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter all the time. I've heard it probably 4 or 5 times by now, the whole thing, and it's 8 hours, right? And every time I go back, I always pick up something new, right? It's not like every time I'm just rereading the same things and no ideas. Every time you like realize something that you didn't before, because time changes and you like kind of understand. Like, experience teaches you what they're talking about in a way, right? And that's why I also recommend you take notes. So this is a new book I just started, and I started taking notes. Over here I have 48 Laws of Power. Let me show you guys up close more. Right. This is again 48 Laws of Power, the last few chapters. And then this is The Art of War. This is just the first chapter. Look at this. That's just all the notes I got from the first chapter itself. And the book is like this big. The book is like this big. And that's all the notes I got from the first chapter. First chapter is literally like 3 or 4 pages actually, not even 5, 6. So like reading books, like I've always been doing this like since a kid, right? My mom reads a lot of books, like crazy amount of books. Like she's read the whole Godfather book. The whole Godfather book. And it's because of my grandpa too, right? My grandpa, he was like in a publishing, like my great grandpa started like the first publishing in South India, in Kerala, right? And they've just been like super, like, my whole family's been reading. My dad loves reading too, right? So it only makes sense that I also love reading too, right? So I know some millennials, some Gen Z kids, like they haven't even opened the book, bro. They haven't ever. They'll go play a video game before they read a book, right? In a way, books is also sometimes entertainment, but I feel like you internalize a lot more information, and it's a real skill to build, right? By now, I probably read like hundreds of books, right? But I've always learned something, right, from them. And I feel like the reason I am the way I am now is, and like the maturity is a lot, like I give it a lot to the books, right? I used to read like dinosaur books as a kid, right? So anyways, let's get back on track. That's a little background on why I love reading books so much, right? But I recommend when you read books, you take notes like this. Each chapter, like, take notes. The way I do it, right? I either sit on my bed or sit at this desk or I sit anywhere. I read the book, and as I'm reading it, I'll take notes, or even after I'm done reading the chapter, I'll take notes. And I feel that's like the best way to do it, right? Don't overcomplicate it. It's just reading. It's just reading. So don't overcomplicate it. And I feel like self-help books are more beneficial than fiction books, right? Self-help books, but don't go like too much into the self-help, because some of them are really trash. Like, honestly, they're just bullshitting because they're selling you like the book, right? I recommend sticking to the classic stuff, like things that are like classics, like 48 Laws of Power. It's been a classic. Bhagavad Gita, so it's the most classic you could get. The Art of War, been a classic. Meditations, been a classic. The Art of the Rhetoric, been a classic. This one is now a classic for sure. And this one, see, 50 Cent is trusted. He's a hustler. So who better to teach you about hustling than 50 Cent, right? He doesn't have to sell you this book, but he wanted to, right? Way of the Superior Man, been a classic. Ask people about it. It's been a classic, right? So you need to focus on the books you like, and just trust me. Like, just go read a book. Just try reading one. You don't have to read as many as I'm reading. Just read one, right? And make your way up. Let me know how it goes. So long, you guys.